Hello out there. Hello, Revere, and welcome to our show, the Revere Veterans and Community. And today I have a guest who's both a veteran of the military and a veteran of the community. His name is Paul Amirault, and let me say, Captain Paul Amirault. Thank you for coming, sir.
You're welcome,
and
Morris.
I salute you for your service, first of all.
Thank you very much.
Right, and you were approximately in the service during the Vietnam War, approximately 5 years. Tell us something about your service.
Well, actually, to be very truthful, I was in the service twice. My first term in the military was at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I was a brand new second lieutenant, and I actually became a company commander while I was in Fort Huachuca.
Isn't that the place where Geronimo was located at one time?
I'm telling you, that's where they captured Geronimo, and that also is the home of the Buffalo Soldiers. Now, how many people know that? It's amazing.
I get a good history lesson here.
Well, I'm just giving you some service. Now, I actually, now in retrospect, I should have stayed in the Army because to me, the military is just a wonderful. I'm 100% behind our military.
I agree with you.
I have 5 children, and I have the only one, and I told all of them, 3 girls and 2 boys, I said all of them go in the military. My youngest son did, and right now he's a full colonel, and he's going to go back on active duty, I think, sometime in April.
What's his name?
His name is Michael E. Amirault, and he lives in Lexington. And he also, I might mention, he has a beach house in Duxbury. So he's doing very well for a young man. He just, for some reason, he knows what to do with money. But anyway, in fact, I have to look to him to find out what I should do. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
So he didn't learn that from his father?
No, he did not. He picked that up on his own, and he's done very, very well.
What about the other 4 kids?
Well, the other 4. My oldest daughter works in Boston. She's working as an insurance person. Her name is Patricia Ann, and she works at Plymouth Rock Insurance. And let me just mention, since we're talking about her, she is the one that introduced me to the Fisher House, which is located at the American Legion Parkway in West Roxbury. And that's a wonderful place because what they do is many of our veterans come back out of even Afghanistan, what's going on now, and they're actually in the hospital. And these people, the families of these soldiers, can actually go to the Fisher House and live while they're visiting their own kids.
Right, at the VA hospital.
At the VA hospital. And I personally, I've been there, I've made a donation. It's just a wonderful place. And at work, she works at Plymouth Rock Insurance, and her whole team went there, and they ended up talking to people, you know, families of veterans that were there. They ended up cleaning the kitchens. They ended up cooking for them and it's a wonderful home. It's a wonderful place. It's like a 5-star hotel. And I'm kind of glad that we're taking care of the families of our veterans, and that's where it's done, right in West Roxbury.
Right, that's 2 kids. Now
yes.
The 3rd one.
Well,
I don't want to leave anyone out.
I'm not. The next one was my oldest son, and he actually works in Hollywood. He's been working in television. In fact, he went out there, I think, in '87, and I don't worry about him anymore because the way they work in Hollywood, you're on a show, you're off a show, you're on, back and forth. And so anyway, he's learned to live that way. And my next was my younger son. I told you about him. And then my middle daughter, and she actually lives up in Bolton, Mass., and she has done amazing things, and she works down in Providence. And she's also, believe it or not, a median, and it's absolutely incredible what this lady has done. And then there's my youngest daughter who lives, and I have 2 granddaughters in San Diego. So, you know, I've got, like I said, 8 grandsons and 3 granddaughters. And
how many grandsons?
8. I'm telling you, it's amazing when I think about it. But, you know, I was married for, 50-odd years, and, you know, it's amazing.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I did mention the fact that I'm a newlywed, right? Because I've got a new wife, and we got married on January 1st this year, 2014. So
let me congratulate you again. I'll be shaking your hand all day, Paul.
Well, I know it, but I keep active, you know, and I also, you know, one of the things I trained before I went to Vietnam, we had to go to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and they put you over they fire machine gun shells.
Did you say Fort Dix?
Fort Dix, yes.
That's where I took my basic training.
Well,
right
do you
outside
remember?
Of Trenton. Right outside of Trenton.
Do you remember when they've got a live machine guns and they're shooting them and you're crawling along your belly and you pray you don't have a shot round in there because you don't want to take a bullet where you don't want one. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. But you should have seen me run when I heard the guns.
Well, they said you were a racer when you were young, right?
Oh, yeah.
How many marathons did you do?
I didn't do any, but I was faster than a bullet that guy.
Well, there is something about, when someone's after you with a gun and they're shooting real live ammunition, you do develop some, techniques that you may not normally have.
People don't know that, but I did get the sharpshooter's medal.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. In fact, I never got the sharpshooter, but I got one of them. I used to wear one on my blouse.
I know some people are not going to believe me out there, Paul, but I did also get the Good Conduct Medal plus the Overseas Army of Occupation Medal.
Okay, now listen, I've known you only through the senior center. However, good conduct? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious.
I know that you might have been over there, so I give you that one. But good conduct? Yeah. Wow, you had them buffaloed.
I did a good job, though. By the way, I got to get back to you. You were working, I believe you're still working for Draper Lab.
Draper Labs in Cambridge, yes.
Right, and you've been them with 9 years approximately?
Well, actually, let me just tell you about that. I was hired as a contractor. I had a 6-month contract to deliver them, to Draper a procedure, a manual, a property manual. So I actually every day I went to Draper and I talked to people, we interviewed and what they wanted, and eventually my 6 months was over, and the last day I handed them a manual. And you see, the thing about Draper, they're audited by the government. In other words,
what do they do, actually, if I may ask?
Well, Draper does many, many things. They're like the think tank for the
military?
For the military,
oh.
Yes. And they've got big Navy contracts. They deal with the Air Force. They deal with the Army, the Marines. And now they're dealing with customers, and it's really amazing. So there's a lot of property that gets involved. And my particular job is working in the government property office, which I love. I only work 3 days a week. So, to me, as a retirement job, I've already retired out of Raytheon. I retired out of 33 years working with the Air Force at Hanscom. So to me, to still work with the military is fine. And at 74, what did I do? I bought a house in Revere, and now I have to live to be 104 just to pay for it.
We'll make sure you do that because we need all the taxes we can get, Paul.
Well, I can understand that.
Okay. By the way, I want you to talk also about our senior center.
Well, the senior center is a great place to come, and you only have to be 60, by the way, to get in there. You pay $1.50 for a meal, and let's face it, it's a wonderful meal. Any meal that I can get where I only pay $1.50, and I don't have to cook it, I just have to eat it. It's wonderful.
Right. Tell us some of the meals they have there so the people out there would know. And then after they finish, tell them where the senior center is located at and what they have to do to get there.
Well, that's an interesting thing because I happen to drive there, and I'm not even sure what that street is. But
Winthrop Avenue.
Winthrop Avenue.
Right.
Well, then I just go straight ahead because I actually live right off of Winthrop Ave.
Right.
That's where Broadsound Street is,
right.
and I live on Spray Ave, and when I bought the house there, it was number 11. So after I looked around, since I was the only house on Spray Ave, I went to the town and I said, gee, if I'm number 11, can you tell me where 1 through 10 are? Well, it turns out that Spray Ave is a street, but it's what they lovingly call a paper street. And that's one of the reasons that I kind of fight the town about, hey, how about plowing me out when we get some of these storms? I have to hire the plows myself. But that's a separate issue.
Right.
I'm right on the seawall, and I'll tell you, I open up my bedroom window and I look out the $5 million view, and I look directly east, and all I see is water, and I can see the boats coming into Boston Harbor.
Right.
To me, it's a location. It's the fourth house that I've bought. It's the only one I bought by myself because I got a divorce in 2010, and I lived with a cousin in Cambridge for a time, and then I actually bought this house. So, like I said, to me, it's a treasure. It's beautiful.
What I would like to say to you, Paul, for the people that do not know where the senior center is located at, it's located at 25 Winthrop Avenue, Revere. And like you say, the meals are $1.50.
Yeah.
But before, they have coffee in the morning with a donut. Coffee plus a donut is only 35 cents.
Right. And another thing, and I've never taken advantage of it, but they tell me if you go upstairs, you can play bocce.
Right.
Now, I only go in there, I have a meal, and then I leave. But,
if you want to play pool, they have a pool table up there. And we are looking for pool players. So if you know a group of people that want to play pool, call 781-286-8156. That's the number of our senior center. But I would like to mention one thing, Paul. Even though, like you say, the meals are good, you have to call a day before if you're coming to the senior center, and you only have to be 60 years and over.
Yeah,
Some people
that's
think
good.
you have to be 65. No, folks, 60 years and over. And let me just repeat the number, 781-286-8156. You call the day before. You pay $1.50 when you come in, and you have a good meal. And by the way, tell us some of the meals they have there, because you've been there quite a while.
Well,
because when you came there, you were nothing but skin and bones, so there you go.
Well, I know it, but I guess, you know, the problem there was that at that time, because of this illness that I got because of Agent Orange.
I'm going to get to talk to you about that.
Yeah, well, what it did, it kind of knocked me down. But the way I am right now, even with that, I mean, I have to watch what I eat because, you know, some people, they go on diets and they can lose. All I have to do is walk by a whole tray of food and I gain 5 pounds. I don't even have to eat. I just go by it, and it's the aroma that gets me. But I've been big all my life. I was a big kid, and I stayed big all my life. What can I say?
Every Friday we have fish there.
Yeah.
Yep, we have pastrami.
Yeah.
We have stuffed peppers.
Oh, it's wonderful food.
Sausages with peppers and onions.
Oh.
Dessert.
You're making me hungry again. Come on now.
I see you put down weight already.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm glad you mentioned about our senior center. What I would like to do with you, Paul, before we go on to this, because this next one concerns both of us, on behalf of the Revere Veterans Service in the city of Revere, the Revere Police and Fire Department, and Stop and Shop, who donates flags to us, we would like to present you with this flag as a gift from a token of appreciation for coming up here.
Well, let me say this about, and I thank you very much, because just this past meeting, I happen to also be the adjutant at the Lieutenant Norman Prince VFW in Melrose. Now, then you say, well, how come somebody from Revere goes to
Melrose?
Melrose?
Right.
Well, I mentioned the Lieutenant Norman Prince post because that's because I'm a Crusader. I'm part of the Crusaders Senior Drum and Bugle Corps, and the Lieutenant Norman Prince post is the home for the Crusaders. So I became the adjutant of that particular post, and we just had a meeting, I guess within the last couple of weeks, and basically they presented us with flags, the MIA flags. So now in my house where my downstairs, where I have a fireplace, I've got one of these MIA flags, and I need this to complement it so I can have cross flags. I got the U.S. flag and I got the MIA flag, and those flags they actually hang on the roof of the post. And when you drive down Main Street in Melrose and you see the post, you see the MIA, you see the American flag, and I think you see the Massachusetts state flag. I think there's 3 of them that fly there.
And I would like to mention, since you're talking about flags, if any of you have a flag that's shredded, please, or is ripped, do not throw them in the garbage. They're to be burned. So you could do that by dropping it off at the American Legion downstairs below to the Revere Veterans Service under Commissioner Nick Boer. And we'll be putting out buckets along different posts within the next month or so where you can drop these flags off if they are shredded, ripped, torn, or with holes on there. So please do not throw them away. Now, Paul, I'd like to talk to you. Oh, by the way, you came to our senior center one time and you played taps for us, and you did a beautiful job.
No.
Yes, you did. I don't care. Well, I think you did. And if I think you did, you did. But
Okay.
you played good taps. How did you learn to play the trumpet, if I may ask you? Because it's, I mean, I blow a lot of hot air, but I can never blow a tune.
Well, here's the thing. I've been playing a trumpet since I was in grade school at St. Anne's School in Dorchester. That's where I'm originally from, Dorchester, all right? And I actually played a trumpet in St. Anne's band, and I played all the way through Northeastern University. I was in the Army ROTC band at Northeastern. And basically, when I got my orders in 1960, that's when I went to Fort Huachuca, by way of Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, because that's where I took the basic signal officer's course. And then I went to Fort Huachuca in Arizona. Now, when you're in Arizona, my friend, you're almost in Mexico.
Go right.
They have the Huachuca Mountains, and on the other side, 15 miles, you're away from Mexico. And you mentioned Geronimo, because that's where he was captured, and the home of the Buffalo Soldiers. So there's a lot of history that's out there in Arizona. Now, when I went on active duty, in March of 1960, I took my trumpet and I put it down. And I left it down for 50 years. I had given it to my oldest daughter, who had 2 boys, and her oldest boy I thought was going into music. So I said, well, if you're going into music, here's a trumpet. Now, he turns out he actually he played the drums, and he never did go into music. In fact, he right now is he's about, I think he's an E7, no, not an he's an E5. He's in Afghanistan, and his job is he puts the armament on F-15s, F-16s, and A-10 platforms. And basically, I'm anxious to wait till he's back on U.S. soil somewhere. He's still in Afghanistan, and I pray for him.
We wish him the best of luck.
And I do too, and I pray for him every day.
So do we. So do we.
Because basically, you know, what is it? Freedom is not free.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't seem to understand that, but you have to work for it. And I can't say how proud I am of being a veteran, and especially foreign war, because what happened to me was I actually could have stayed in the service when I first went, but in those days I thought that if I stayed, I'd end up in Korea. And Korea was not something that I wanted to do. So I didn't, but eventually they caught up to me and I got back in the reserves. So I actually was a captain, and I was in a, let's see, the 513th Maintenance Battalion. I was a captain, and I was in that battalion. So in 1968, just after the Tet, they activated the battalion, and we were going to Vietnam. And I actually was the train commander, and I took all the men, we took all our equipment, we took everything, we went down to Fort Meade, Maryland. And when I got there, since I was the train commander, I had to go to the transportation people. And what they were doing was measuring all the equipment for Connex boxes. And they're the people that said, you guys are going to Vietnam. So I'll never forget this, because down at Fort Meade, I happened to have to teach a class. So General Westmoreland, when he went over there, he made a beautiful book, and he talked about Vietnam. This is what you have to do, and you watch out for the punji stakes. And the shoes that were issued, they had metal right on the bottom, so that when the soldiers are in the jungle, if they hit one of these, they're not going to get that punji, they're not going to get hurt. All of the things that were done. So anyway, I'm talking, and we had M16s. They took away our carbine weapons when we got there.
That's what I used to too, was the M16 rifle.
Yeah, well, they gave us the M16, and that was it took the 7.62 NATO round.
Right.
I'm amazed that all of this stuff is coming back, because I don't think about this a lot. But basically, I think about that particular time when I was, getting ready to go to Vietnam. So here I am in Fort Meade, Maryland, and what they do when they have a battalion like that, they have a table of organization and equipment. It's called the TO&E. Well, immediately, we were brought up as a whole unit, but we didn't have all our spaces filled. Well, what people don't realize that a lot of people get activated not with a unit, but as an individual. If they have a unit that has a particular MOS, the military occupational specialty, they go and say, oh, we'll take you, and we'll take you, and they take all of these people, and they found out, now you've got a unit that's got everybody, there's someone in every place. Well, guess what? I was the senior captain in the unit, but I was Signal Corps. According to the TO&E, the senior captain had to be ordnance. And they said, well, that's no problem. We're going to make you an ordnance officer. And I says, I'm sorry, I'm school trained. I'm an electrical engineer out of Northeastern, and my military occupational specialty was an engineer. So I got relieved, and I went over as an individual. Go ahead.
You said Northeastern University. Now I got to interrupt you, because we have a special guest coming up here soon. He's a professor or dean of law at Northeastern. His name is Peter Emmerich, I believe he is. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be talking about constitutional law and explaining to the people how the federal government can overrule the state, because we have people here, when we vote for certain things, like, for example, the city of Revere voted for the casino.
Yes.
Some people want to overturn it by going and collecting 90,000 or 100,000 signatures. That would mean that if I don't like what the law is, I could go out and get a bunch of people and just say, let's overturn it. But he's going to explain to us why we can't and why we can't. So from your law school, he's coming up. So Peter, thank you for coming up here. So I thought you'd be interested in that. But I would like to talk to you about now. I went to the VA hospital for oncology.
Yes.
I'm going to let you. I hear this voice calling, how is your twin brother? Now, I have a twin brother, an identical twin brother,
Yes.
but he's the ugly one. I want you to know that. I remember I told you that?
Yes.
So someone yells out, how's your twin brother, Morris? And I looked up, and I didn't know who it was. And he yelled it out again. When I turned around, it was this gentleman that I knew from the senior center, but I didn't recognize you because you had a beard.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, it wasn't Christmas time, but you still had the beard.
That's true. That's true. Well, you know,
You and I go to oncology. Tell the people exactly what the veterans, what they do for us there. Because we both, you have leukemia, Agent Orange?
no, I have prostate cancer.
I do
Agent
too.
Orange.
I
Yeah.
do too. And we
Yeah.
go for radiation or chemo, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us how it is there. I'd rather
Well-
hear it from you than from me.
Okay, well, let me say this about that. What happened to me basically was I used to get all my treatments at the BI, the Beth Israel. That was my
Oh,
hospital
BI,
of
okay.
children, you know, in Boston.
Right.
Now, why am I even here talking to you at this time? I had a brain bleed in 2008. My ex-wife and I, with the family, we had a big deal because we had been married 50 years, and we went to Yellowstone. So we had the whole family there. In fact, I had my 5 kids there, and I think I had 9 out of 11 grandkids at that time. My oldest granddaughter was married, and she was, I think her and her husband at that time, they were in Japan. And then, let's see, there was a couple of others. I don't remember why they weren't here, but
That's
the point is we had a family time, and it was a wonderful time. So as it turned out, everybody went home. Everybody left. And my wife and I, we actually had gone, we went to Salt Lake City, Utah. That's where we picked up our, our trip.
Right.
And basically we went back there, and I guess we ended up in Las Vegas anyway. And my oldest son, who came from California, he was the last one to stay, and then he went home. So we were going to be there like 7 days, and we were going to stay, and then we were going to come home. And on the 6th, we was coming on the 7th of August, and on the 6th of August, I had a brain bleed. And I'll tell you, when my wife was, at the time, she was an RN, and she actually saw me, and then she says, "Hey, there's something wrong
Is
here."
that
She
like
called.
a stroke, Paul?
It is. It's a stroke. I mean,
Oh,
you've got,
it is?
Oh yeah, it's a TI or whatever they call it. But you have blood on the brain. I actually saw it. I saw the what is it? The MRI,
Yeah.
and it shows the puddle. And you don't know how it got there, but apparently something broke, and thankfully it wasn't a vein. I mean, it wasn't an artery. It was a vein.
Thank God for
If
that,
it had
too.
been an artery, bang, I probably wouldn't be here. But it was a vein, and you could never see where it came from because the vein that broke was under the pool. The body is a remarkable thing. They gave me some real high-tech medicine. I stayed in Las Vegas for 1 week, and then finally I got out of there. I was on a Learjet, and I always wanted to fly in a Learjet, but I didn't want to fly on a gurney. And my ex-wife was an RN, so she ended up taking the place of a doctor. So on a Learjet now, we take off from Las Vegas Airport. We ended up in Omaha, Nebraska. They changed crew. They gave us some food, and then we ended up at Hanscom. And, of course, I come off the plane, and there's an ambulance to take me right to the BI. They were expecting someone that was paralyzed, that couldn't walk or do this, and, of course, I come bounding off. And the doctors looked at me, and they only kept me in the BI for 3 days, and then they kicked me out. And I'm thankful about that because, hospitals are not a good place to be, especially when you have diseases like MRSA and stuff like that. So anyway, I got out of that, and I ended up going to my middle daughter, who has a home up in Bolton, and she actually turned her living room around and made it my bedroom, and that's where I recovered. And then after I recovered and everything, I never lost my license, but I never drove because you're not supposed to when you have that kind of a problem. So then when the BI, in order to get out, I had to take what they call a driving test that they give to anybody that has these kind of problems. So, of course, I passed that, and then they gave me a license, so then I could go back to work. And Draper was looking for me because I was on leave for quite a while.
Paul, we have a couple of minutes left, as you can see. Take the next 2.5 minutes and wrap it up with whatever you would like to.
All right. I hope we went through some of the questions. I don't know.
We did. We went through all of them.
We did. That's
Yep.
good. Morris, I got to say this about you. I thank you for what you do for the veterans. I thank anybody who is a veteran for what they did because I know that freedom is not free. And basically, it gives me great pleasure. And by the way, talking about the trumpet, I played the Star Spangled Banner at the
Right. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned the trumpet. If people would like to contact you to play taps or to play the trumpet for them, they can do that by using our email. And let me just give you our email. It's rvc@reveretv.org. And I'll repeat that. RV, like R in Robert, V in Victor, C in Connecticut, @reveretv.org. And they can contact Paul Amirault. Just put his name on there, and we'll make sure he gets it. So, Paul, take the next minute. It's all yours.
All right. Well, listen, I thank you. And I also will say one other thing, because through you, I heard that they were looking for somebody to play the Star Spangled Banner at the Point of Pines Yacht Club.
Right.
Well, that's a big secret in Revere, too, because that's an amazing place. And I became a social member down there, too. And it turned out when they thought I was there to play as part of the honor guard, because they actually had an honor guard from the Army that came. It was a celebration for Veterans Day. And they said, no, we have a young lady to sing the national anthem. And I said, you what? I said, that's a hard thing to sing. And they said, yeah, Laura Melanson. I nearly fell through the roof because I worked with Laura Melanson at Hanscom Air Force Base, and I knew her, and it was really something. In fact, I came back, and I had a Crusader event, but I stopped. I had a drink with her. I met her, and she still is as great a singer as ever, and I was happy to see her. And, you know, that wraps it up.
Right. Paul, I want to thank you. God bless you, first of all, for coming on Revere TV. Thank you. And let me salute you again, because you are a veteran of the military and also a community veteran. So thank you. So God bless you again. God bless our troops. God bless our city and the people of Revere. But most of all, God bless our great country, the United States of America. Thank you for listening. Till our next show, I hope we have another great guest like you, Paul. Thank you again.